Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, he dunks. Oh, my goodness.
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn. His heave is good. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining.
Conley now with three. Count it. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant. He hit it. John Morant, insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. Grizzlies win edition. My name is Keith Parrish. The Grizzlies won their 9th consecutive home game. They beat the Dallas Mavericks for the 3rd time in the last 10 days. They used a suffocating fourth quarter defensive attack to win. Yet again, the Grizzlies streak of having huge fourth quarters and huge defensive fourth quarters continued. The Grizzlies only allowed the Mavericks 12 points in the final frame. The Mavericks did not make a basket over the final 6 minutes. The Mavericks were 3 for 21 from the field in the fourth quarter. The Grizzlies used a familiar pattern of rallying. They've now rallied from a double-digit fourth quarter deficit in 3 of their past 5 wins. Not necessarily a good winning habit, but an incredible run of comebacks for the Grizzlies. Oh, how the tables have turned, or oh, how the turntables from a little earlier in this season, where the Grizzlies themselves blew multiple double-digit fourth quarter leads. Starting in late January, the Grizzlies had something like, 5 or 6 moments where they had double-digit leads in the second half. We highlighted on this show the fourth quarter woes for the Grizzlies. The fourth quarter woes are currently no more. The Grizzlies have won 6 of 7. And in those 7 games, the Grizzlies' last 7 games, they have won the fourth quarter in all 7 of them. Beyond that, they've only allowed their opponents to score more than 20 in 2 of those games. They outscored the Mavericks on Monday night 25-12 in the fourth quarter. They outscored the Warriors 29-19 in the fourth quarter. Remember, the Warriors went off for 41 points in the third quarter before running out of gas or running into the Grizzlies defense and only scoring 19 in that fourth quarter. In the Spurs game, which was the biggest comeback in franchise history and the biggest comeback in the NBA this season, they held the Spurs to 16 points in the fourth quarter. Even the one loss in their past 7 games, the loss to Miami, they won the fourth quarter 42-32. If you throw out that loss, the fourth quarter defensive numbers are just absurd. The Grizzlies have only allowed 17.7 points in the fourth quarters on average in their last 6 wins. In the last 3 games, they've only allowed 15.7 points per fourth quarter. Those are mind-boggling numbers for the modern NBA, for the current NBA. Yeah, there are some excuses you can make for your opponent or further context provided. This, once again, was a Mavericks team without Luka Doncic. The Grizzlies, beat him 3 times. Luka played in none of them. Kyrie Irving did play in this game. Kyrie was huge until probably re-injuring his sore foot. Kyrie did not score in the fourth quarter. He missed all 8 of his field goal attempts in the fourth quarter. He had 25 just a few minutes into the third quarter. So I do think Kyrie was probably hurt. Were the rest of the Mavericks hurt that played? I don't know. The non-Jaden Hardy Mavericks missed all 16 of their field goal attempts in the fourth quarter. So the Grizzlies, all right, they put the clamps in the fourth quarter on this Mavericks team 3 times. I don't know what the Warriors' excuse is, other than they played on the road, but they put fourth quarter clamps on the Warriors twice. The Spurs are very bad. So we still have to maybe pump the brakes a bit on the Grizzlies, fully hitting their stride. But we don't have to pump the brakes on how eye-popping these numbers are. And we also don't have to pump the brakes on Santi Aldama's career night. Santi Aldama had a career-high 22 points and a career-high 14 rebounds off the bench. He was sorely needed to step in for Jaren Jackson Jr., who got himself in some foul trouble. I mean, Jaren himself, no slouch. Jaren scored 28 points in only 23 minutes, but he picked up a couple of fouls on consecutive plays within seconds of each other in the third quarter, had to go to the bench with 5 fouls. Aldama comes in and provides a big lift that was needed. Aldama has been struggling a bit. His three-point stroke has abandoned him. He made 2 out of 6 in this one, which is good enough, but Santi powered through just by being big. I don't mean to take anything away from his performance, but his size was sorely needed, and he came through with that massive game, 22 points and 14 rebounds. He did a lot of that damage in the second half, where he finished with 16 and 7 in just the second half. But Santi gave you a big game. Jaren Jackson Jr., 28 points, kept his streak going. He's now scored over 25 in 4 straight games. This was actually the second game of Jaren's career where he had 28 points in 23 minutes of playing time. The only other Grizzlies players in franchise history to score 28 or more playing 25 minutes or less are Desmond Bane, Mario Chalmers, and Marc Gasol. Jaren continued his stretch of just being a dominant offensive force, being patient on the inside when he gets position, showing great body control, not picking up offensive fouls, which was needed in this game where he picked up some pretty cheap defensive fouls where he's got to make some better decisions. They seem like some avoidable fouls for Jaren. But on the offensive end, he's been an incredible force, and we hope he can keep this up as a go-to offensive option once Ja Morant comes back. I guess I buried the lead. Ja Morant attended this game, this home game on a Monday night, and it sounds like, according to Taylor Jenkins, he's expected to play in the Wednesday night game against the Rockets. Now, the Grizzlies have been playing very, very well. Winners of 6 of 7 without Ja. Ja said, maybe I can come off the bench. He volunteered to come off the bench because the team is playing well. Dylan Brooks said, no way. I'm also saying no way. They're not going to bring Ja Morant off the bench. So Ja Morant has to reintegrate himself into the basketball team and not step on the toes of the things that are happening. I think it might honestly be bumpy reacclimating Ja, and historically, when he's come back from a lot of time off, the Grizzlies haven't looked super good. They get to play a not great Rockets team that's, tanking, but they've got a lot of talent. And as you know, I hate playing games where the Grizzlies are heavy favorites because you only get relief when you win, and then the disappointment and anxiety of possibly losing. But Ja Morant will be back on Wednesday. Dylan Brooks will not be playing on Wednesday. Dylan Brooks picked up his 18th technical foul of the season for an extended celebration after a dunk / taunting. Didn't look like he said anything, but he did do a little funny dance and picked up a technical foul from Tony Brothers. So he will probably, unless this is somehow rescinded, he will probably be out for the game on Wednesday. Also, Dylan's hot scoring streak of the previous 2 games, it ran out. He was only 3 of 9 from the field, but he did have 5 assists. He had nearly 25% of all the Grizzlies' assists. They only managed 21 assists in this game, a game after recording 36 assists and only 5 turnovers against the Warriors. It was much tougher sledding on the offensive end as they only managed to assist on 21 baskets. The Mavericks did a good job of slowing the game down, limiting the Grizzlies' transition points, locking them into a half-court battle. Also, the Grizzlies got a big game on the offensive glass. They recorded 17 offensive rebounds. They got 22 second chance points. They were huge, particularly in the fourth quarter. In that fourth quarter rally, the Grizzlies had 8 second chance points in just the fourth quarter. They recorded 6 offensive rebounds in just that fourth quarter. Overall, the Grizzlies out-rebounded the Mavs 19-7 in the fourth quarter, but that's mainly because the Mavericks missed 18 of their 21 field goal attempts. A lot of those fourth quarter rebounds were by the not typical guys. You used an undersized lineup with Kennard out there and Conchar and Roddy. Conchar got 5 fourth quarter rebounds, as did Roddy. Both of them had 2 offensive rebounds in just the fourth quarter. Luke Kennard had a tip-out offensive rebound. It was great hustle and activity from this undersized unit. Part of this comeback, it was an 11-0 run immediately after they fell down by 16. They ended the third quarter with that Bane three-pointer, just a big play, similar to the Luke Kennard half quarter against the Spurs, cutting that game to 12. This three-pointer cut it to 13 going into the fourth. Then you open the fourth quarter with a Conchar corner three. That's a quick 6-0 run. Then they forced Kyrie into a double dribble. Aldama hit a top of the key three-pointer. That made it an 11-0 run. Then Jaden Hardy did some stuff. Jaden Hardy was huge for the Mavericks. Thankfully, he played less than 19 minutes. He had 20 points in only 19 minutes of playing time. And again, he scored the only buckets for the Mavs in the fourth quarter. There was a long scoreless streak for both teams. Yes, the Mavericks, had a 6-minute stretch where they only scored 2 points, but the Grizzlies weren't really pulling away. It wasn't until Bane got back in there and made a driving layup. The downhill Dez, as Brevin Knight calls him. He made a driving layup to put the Grizzlies up 3. The Grizzlies held on defense as the Mavericks kept clanking three-pointers, and then Jaren Jackson Jr. put it away with a bucket to go up 5, capping this great fourth quarter run. I think it's interesting the closing lineups the Grizzlies have been using in this game. They initially, with about 6 minutes left when they put in what felt like it was going to be the closing lineup, they had Roddy in as the power forward alongside Jaren Jackson Jr. Roddy, not a terrific game. He missed his first 5 field goal attempts. He was, again, very active in the fourth quarter, part of the rally, so that was good to see. But they had Roddy and Jackson alongside Tyus, Desmond, and Dylan. Then they put in Aldama to finally close out the game with an Aldama, Jaren Jackson Jr. front court. They have been using those Roddy and Jaren front court combinations, or Dylan and Roddy as the forwards alongside Jaren as the 5. They've been using that a lot in fourth quarters recently. But if you look back in each of the last 5 games, they've kind of used a different closing lineup in each one. And that goes back to the just kind of they're going to play by feel. And I don't think there's a clear cut who are our best players. Once Ja Morant comes back, it's going to get even trickier because Tyus Jones has been playing well. He had 16 points and 6 assists in this one. Kennard has been playing solidly of late. After having a terrible plus-minus for like the first 10 games on the Grizzlies, it's really turned around the past few games. Luke Kennard scored 10, double digits again for him, making 2 3-pointers. So when Ja comes back, this next game's going to be no Dylan, but when Ja and Dylan are both around, it's going to be Ja and Dez and Dylan and Jaren, and then it's going to be either Aldama or Tillman or Kennard or Roddy or Tyus. And I think it's probably going to change on a game-to-game basis. Like the game before this one, the Warriors game, Dylan was in foul trouble, and they had Tyus and Dez and Jaren with Tillman and Roddy. So they went with the starting lineup. I think it would have been starting lineup except for Dylan's foul trouble, and they pulled the game out where they didn't need to put Dylan back in. In the Spurs game, they went smaller with Luke Kennard in there. So it was Tyus, Desmond, Dylan, Jaren, and Luke Kennard. The game before that, the Miami game, it was a blowout. No idea what they would have gone with. The last Mavs game, they went with the Roddy and Dillon as the forwards with Jaren as the lone big. But Bane had foul trouble in that game. So Conchar was in with those guys. So the Grizzlies are emphasizing a lot of, Roddy and Dillon as the forwards with Jaren, but also I don't know if there's enough to call it a pattern yet for what the preferred closing lineup is for the coaching staff. Desmond Bane, he had maybe not his best game that he's had in a while. He only finished with 17 points. He had 2 assists and 6 turnovers, had a bunch of turnovers in that third quarter where the Grizzlies really had things slow down for him. We were having a playback watch party. My buddy John Burr, co-host of Fast Break Breakfast, dubbed him Uphill Des, and it felt apt. He kept turning the basketball over, trying to do his drives towards the basket. So Desmond Bane with not the best game, which is why it's great to see Jaren, again, coming up with 28, becoming that primary offensive option in limited minutes, and great to see Santi Aldama step up and help save the Grizzlies in a game where Bane is not his best, where Dillon only makes 3 out of 9 of his field goal attempts. Anyways, let's take a quick break, and then I'll be right back to wrap up the show. All Grizz, all the time. Stay connected and follow at memphisgrizzlies and at Grind City Media across all social channels, including Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, for breaking news, one-of-a-kind content, and all the perspectives you won't find anywhere else. All right, this win over the Mavericks was the Grizzlies' 30th home win of the season. The Grizzlies still have the best home record in the NBA this year. They are now 2 away from the franchise record of 32 home wins in a season set in 2013. Last season, they won 30 games at home. As well. Of course, the Grizzlies have 6 more home games, so certainly you would think they're going to break this record. The only seasons they've had more wins at home besides that 2013 season was in 2015. They had 31 home wins. Also, they had 31 home wins in 2004. So the Grizzlies' home dominance continues. For me, that still is clouding my ability to judge exactly how good this Grizzlies team is. I mean, we spelled out the post-All-Star break schedule was going to be this gauntlet, and it was a gauntlet. And, it started off with that road loss to the Sixers where you blew a fourth-quarter lead. Then you came home and beat the Nuggets and Lakers. You're feeling good. You go on the road. You win at Houston. Then comes the loss at Denver, after which Ja Morant does his Instagram Live thing and leaves the team for a while. Then you lose at Clippers, lose at the Lakers. You come home, and then you start running off these wins. You beat the Warriors. You beat the Mavericks. You go on the road, beat the Mavericks. You go on the road, get hammered by Miami. And then, of course, the miracle comeback against the Spurs. The win at home again against the Warriors. And then this game on Monday night where you beat the Mavericks, the shorthanded Mavericks once again. So this post-All-Star break schedule gauntlet, you survived at 9-5. 9 of those games, the last 9 of those games are without Ja Morant. You go 5-0 against the Warriors and Mavericks in just the past 11, 12 days. All of those games without Ja Morant, obviously. The idea of going 5-0 in those games seems shocking. The context of the games, knowing, all right, the Mavericks are never at full strength. Like the Mavericks with Luka Doncic, the Mavericks, if healthy, are they a better team than the Grizzlies? I don't know. I think a lot of people are going to feel that way. I do think specifically it's a bad matchup for the Grizzlies. I think you saw it in this game where the Grizzlies fell down by 16. In the game the week before where they fell down by double digits in the fourth quarter, they struggled to score in the half court against this team, and the Mavericks are really good at slowing the pace down. Also, Luka Doncic has won 8 of his last 9 games against the Grizzlies. So, like, Luka specifically gives the Grizzlies problems. But it might not matter because they're never healthy. So we don't have to worry about it. And the Grizzlies keep winning. So the Grizzlies are putting themselves in a good position for the postseason to have home court advantage in a possible matchup. Like in this 9-5 record after the All-Star break, they're 6-0 at home. They win all the home games. So again, I'm not totally sure what it means. At home, the Grizzlies have now scored 100 or more points in 51 straight games. That is a franchise record. Let's talk about Xavier Tillman briefly to end the show. Xavier Tillman did not have the biggest game. He has not been the option they go with in fourth quarters for most of the recent games, although he has at times played some big fourth quarter minutes. Tillman in this one had 3 points and 3 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and a block. He does keep collecting those steals and blocks. His individual defense and team defense is very, very good. I also feel like I should highlight, just because I have been remiss in not doing so, that his finishing has been quite good this season. Specifically, it is vastly improved from last season. This year, he's at 73.9% effectiveness, field goal percentage, is a simpler way to say that, at the rim. He's 73.9% at the rim. Last year, he was just 62% on field goal attempts at the rim. Last year, on his jump shots that weren't three-pointers, he still hasn't really added that three-point threat to his arsenal. I kind of wish he would shoot more threes, but I guess we can worry about that another year. Last year on two-point jump shots, he was 44%. This year on two-point jump shots, he's 54%. So he has raised his field goal percentage at the rim by over 10 percentage points from last year, and he's increased his field goal percentage on jump shots, two-point jump shots, basically 10 percentage points as well. So great job improving there. His rookie season numbers, by the way, were very good at the rim. So they were almost as high as they were this season, but he's definitely overall improved that efficiency in scoring, which has been, again, a really nice development. One of the silver linings of the Grizzlies' terrible front court injury luck is Xavier Tillman has developed quite nicely and keeps giving very strong, very good minutes. Oh, and finally, got to say, the Kings lost to the Jazz on Monday night. The Grizzlies are now all alone in the second seed in the Western Conference. They are one game up with 11 games to play. On paper, the Grizzlies' schedule does not look that hard. So hopefully the Grizzlies can take care of business. You have those 6 home games, 5 road games. That's exactly the same as the Kings have, 6 home games, 5 road games. So as long as the Grizzlies have the exact same record as the Kings, over the next 11, the Grizzlies will be the 2 seed, and the 2 seed for the second season in a row. Fantastic achievement for the franchise. Anyways, the Grizzlies' next 2 games are home games against the Rockets. You can get your tickets by calling 901-888-HOOP or going to the FedEx Forum box office. If you want to support my show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can watch these episodes with video highlights sprinkled in. It is a tremendous experience. I've imagined that's what people would say once they watch it. Go to the YouTube page, subscribe to the Grits and Grinds YouTube channel. Anyways, thanks for listening. Hope you have a great Tuesday. Talk to you soon. Go Grizz.